is Edward. This class that you happen to be in is, well, mine is entitled Communication in the Autocrat, Optimizing Communication at Events, or How to Set Up an Event So You Can Put Up Your Feet and Sip on a Cold Drink. Because sometimes we need to do that. A little bit of background on this. This is based on an essay, which I believe is marked as the class handout if you get to my my teacher profile, that I wrote about 3 years ago after we had a run of events where the communication on site was particularly bad. And I'm not going to go, well, I may give you specifics as we go as examples. I got frustrated enough about it that, well, I wrote something. You have to know how particularly frustrated I have to be to start writing stuff. That being said, this is practices of how an event steward communicates with the populace on site. I've omitted how the event steward is supposed to communicate with the officers and the seneschal and stuff, just to make this a lot easier. That's really almost an entirely other subject that could take an hour. We're not going to go into that. So this is about the on-site communication, starting with event copy and working up from there. A warning, as I'm talking about this stuff, if you find yourself as an event steward, do not plan on doing any of this alone. This is not an assignment that it expects you to do this alone. Get help. Make sure you've got a crew doing this for oh so many reasons. All right, moving along. Your first job as an event steward is getting the populace to the site. Failure to do this means you don't have much of an event because you don't have much of a populace at the site, or when they finally get there, they can be very grumpy. Starts with your event copy. So a couple of things, couple of pieces of advice. Write it all down, then go out and drive it. Check it turn by turn, check the landmarks, check the GPS, check the signs. Okay, and this is one of the things that got me really ticked off. Couple of event stewards at some point decided, oh, here's the address, go ahead and follow your GPS. I don't carry a phone regularly. I don't carry GPS regularly. I do know to look up on a map ahead of time where my turns are, but if all your event copy says is here's the address and follow your GPS, that's a cop-out, and I think you can do much better. Signs. All right. If you get a chance, if you haven't ever done this, go out along a highway and stand next to a highway sign. Please note that when you stand next to a sign, they're a lot bigger than you think they are from the car. It's not unusual for highway signs, the green where to go signs on a highway, to be at least 6 feet tall and 12 feet wide, with letters about 8 inches tall, so we can find them. You're passing along in a car, you shouldn't have to work too hard to read something. The smallest sign to consider effective on a roadside is probably about 2 feet by 3 feet, with letters at least 4 inches high, and if possible, letters 8 inches high. Anything smaller than this cannot always be read by a car, by somebody in a car. So as you set up your signage and getting people in, sandwich boards. Sandwich board signs are a wonderful idea. If you can borrow them, great. You could potentially have a party at your place or somebody else's to construct a couple. If you happen to need them for an event, make that a social event into itself. But a signage you can put on the side of the road that says turn here, or this is it. These are the things you need. Again, consider the smallest effective being about 2 foot by 3 foot. Bigger is better. Letters at least 4 inches high and nice and wide. I would say at least an inch wide on the lines on the letters. If you can manage it, 8 inches high. Again, ask around who has them. Also, when making these signs, reflective paint is a thing. It's easily obtained if you have a little lead time, so that the sign shows up in headlights. The other thing you can do is attach, well, these days we got so many rechargeable light options. You could attach a light to it. You could attach glow sticks to it, but please make sure that it is not missed in the dark. Big signs are necessary at every turn that does not have a clear highway sign that denotes the turn, or at least a clear road sign, street sign for the turn. So if you've got a turning into a driveway unmarked, it's best to have a sign out there. In a pinch, a large heraldic banner that denotes the entrance to the site hung out at the front will do the job, and people at least know they've arrived. I don't know about you, but whenever I'm traveling somewhere, there's a sigh of relief when I realize I'm finally at the site. I get a lot more relaxed then. There was a couple of things I wanted to check. One second. Working off of notes here, and they're not nearly as big as they should be for me to read them while I'm doing this. Oh, that's because I skipped ahead. Whenever possible, when you've got your event copy figured out, go out and drive it. Make sure that the highway signs say what you think they say, and if they don't, change it to what they really do say. This goes especially for freeway exits. You know it's exiting to this road, but does it say that on the sign? When possible, give the exit number. We finally got them in California, starting about 10 years ago. I know a lot of other states were far ahead of us on that one. I kind of wish we had them before. Exit numbers are wonderful. Tell the populace everything you can. Anybody who misses the site, overdrives it, is sort of a failure on your part to not give, in most cases, is a failure on the part of the event steward to not give clear and concise directions. If you're not sure about this, give her directions to somebody else and have them drive it and see what happens. But check it before you send them in. Okay, moving along. Any other questions on event copy for directions? No problem.
You have a couple of comments. Did you want them?
I don't need the comments as much as I would need the questions.
No
if
questions
you
at this
figure
time.
they're relevant, go ahead and read them out.
It was just 3 lines or text or less on signs, and some exits have different road names, so be sure to include those.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing, pictures on the signs. The West Demi Sun is a wonderful thing for us to catch our eye. The letters SCA in the biggest print across the sign, and as big as you can make them. Wonderful. Great idea. That was the other thing that was nagging at me. Okay. Somehow I think I got this out of, all right. Okay, moving on to, now that you figured out your directions, we're going to go into the subject of event copy. So many times I get to an event, a lot of times I run archery ranges and somebody tells me, oh, I didn't know there was going to be archery at this event. I didn't bring my bow. Again, this is a communication fail, and I'm sure we can do much better on this. Included in your event copy, make sure you tell everybody what's going to happen. Archery, fighting, rapier, court, games, children's activities, contests, meetings. Also, if possible, tell them the things that aren't going to happen, like, you know, no, we're not going to do this at this event, not going to do that. This helps so much when people are packing for an event that they don't have to guess what they need. They get on the site, they've got the stuff they want. They didn't have to schlep a bunch of stuff that wasn't useful. Please tell them. Okay. Also, If you think something should happen, or you have room for more things to happen, but they haven't been organized yet, say so. This can be included in the event copy. It could also be put up on social media. For instance, hey, we could have rapier at this event if someone would step up to run it. Sometimes you get a willing volunteer this way, so don't forget to include that. A note: the event copy that goes into the page has to be pretty short. You can elaborate on a lot of the stuff that goes on to the calendar copy instead of the page copy, and get a lot more information into these things. For instance, what you'd like to see happen, see if anybody steps up. Also, in your event copy, please tell us what's there. For instance, potable water, shade, showers, green grass, or a nearby store. Then tell us what's not there. For instance, potable water, shade, showers, green grass, or a nearby store. Thanks for the laugh, Allie. I saw that. And please don't forget to tell us about any site restrictions. For instance, can we have fires, pets? Can we make some noise? It makes a difference if you're going to pack the drums, or if you pack the drums and you can't yet use them. All right. If you forget something from your event copy or something changes, make sure you post it on social media to get the word out to everybody. One of my best tools on this is at the top of your announcement. Hey, late changes to site information. Please post this on other groups and to other people. Ask the populace to help you get the information out there, because there's no way you're going to be on every local group. Although, for the most part, if you send those announcements to communications@westkingdom.org, they will put them on as many groups as they have contact with and get them out there. Another thing about late announcements: if you have a major change to something happening at your site, for instance, yeah, we're expecting a lot of wind and we're not going to allow fires. Okay. The bad example of this I can point out was, here's an event announcement. Here's the weather report. Yeah, we're going to have some wind, but it's going to be a beautiful sunny day. Elaborate, elaborate, elaborate. And oh, by the way, we won't be able to have fires. Yeah, maybe that should have been your lead. I've actually got to sites where I thought I was cooking on an open fire, and yeah, not so much. Put the important things as the lead. The weather report is not the important thing. The fact that you've made a change to the event rules, that's the lead. Okay. And again, the information on the Kingdom calendar can be changed as it gets updated. And if you tell communications at West Kingdom about that, especially about changes, they can highlight those, put them on the top of the copy, and get them down there. There's nothing, your page copies due a couple of months ahead of time. Calendar copy can be changed a couple of days ahead. All right. That being said, let me see where I'm at here. I've skipped ahead in my notes, but that's a good thing. Oh, okay. That was pretty much it. Ready for questions now on event copy? Anybody care to pipe in?
I'll just say that you probably know about this, Edward, but I have a real P point on this regarding Murray Hill Ranch, northwest of Cloverdale. Google Maps, unless they've changed it, doesn't know where that place is. And the place that Google Maps send you, if you use the link in what used to be the event stuff, is nowhere near the ranch. And when I mentioned that to the autocrat and said it would be useful to have more specific information, the response I got was, we've been using this site for years. Everybody knows where it is. That's not really helpful.
That's not at all helpful for newcomers, which, you know, we keep saying we want newcomers, we want new people, and then you make it impossible to find the site. Thank you very much. Very nice comment. That one in particular, that's where you start driving the instructions. Maybe give somebody mileage to site or mileage from a landmark. You know what? I skipped something in my my maps part up on top, or my instructions. Landmarks in your instructions. There's a couple of sites where we pass something significant like a fire station, or if you can give mileage from the turn, from the point where you turn off on this, if you zero your odometer, the site entrance is at 9.7 miles. Anything like that is certainly so much more helpful than not. And I consider it a personal failure if I'm running an event and I get people lost on the roads. And your GPS and 5-digit county addresses, we have a problem with this for the site for the Windy Mead shoot. If you follow and this will be in the event copy every time, if you follow the address, it puts you to a place 6 miles south of the actual event. Not very helpful. So we give them an intersection of 2 roads, which once you put that into your navigator, will get you there. But if you use, for instance, the 5-digit county address, you're not going to be in the right place. All of these things should show up when you drive your own instructions before you send them in as event copy. And if you know it's been a problem before, please, for God's sake, don't repeat the same mistake on the next one just because some people made it there. Fix it. Okay. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here. Sure.
Crystal has a question. Go ahead, Crystal.
Thank you. I have 2 things that I've found that might be extra helpful also, which are, once you've done that drive to site, have your GPS, if you have a GPS locator that can give you an exact pinpoint, that can be helpful because that gives you the exact GPS pinpoint.
Latitude and longitude will, just geocache to the site. That's perfect.
Yeah, so that can be helpful. The other thing that I think is really important is let people know if there is cell phone availability on site. If you don't have a site that has access to a cell phone signal, it can be problematic for lots of people for various reasons. We don't need to know why, but we know that it can be problematic if there is not readily available cell phone service.
Thank you for pointing that out. I generally don't carry a cell phone, so I didn't think about that one, but I'll probably add it to the essay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, moving along, are there any other questions on event copy? All right, we're going to move along to site handouts. Anybody care to guess, or just from your own experience, how many sites that you visited, what percentage of them did you get a handout for the site? What percentage did you not? I'd be very surprised if this is higher than 50%. Anybody?
It depends on what kingdom you're in.
Fair enough. And what about the West?
In the West, I'd say it's maybe 20%.
It used to be more.
It used to be a lot more.
Yeah. Not making a site handout is missing a huge, huge opportunity to communicate with your populace for how you want the event to run. It's also probably the single most effective thing you can do if you actually want to have some time on site where you can put your feet up and sip a cold drink. That being said, I don't consider it an optional extra at an event that you have a site handout. Some people consider it optional, not in my book. So many things you can put in them. For instance, a schedule. Okay, everybody laugh, go ahead. No schedule in the SCA ever survives human contact. I'm aware of this. However, the schedule at least gives you probably the order of the events that are going to happen for the day, if not the exact times. And it gives a listing of the events that are going to happen for the day so people know what's going on and what to expect. Even if your timeline on the schedule is a flight of fancy and it's never going to happen, do it anyway. Okay, so schedule, great. Restate the restrictions on the site. For instance, are fires allowed? Are pets allowed? If so, where and how? Is noise a problem? Is there a noise restriction? Make sure everybody knows what's going on. You can prevent a lot of embarrassment with that one. And isn't that a courtesy? Okay. Conveniences. On your site handout, point out water, showers, trash pickup, and possibly nearby stores. It's redundant, but consider that not everybody on that site has read your event copy. They may have been brought to the site by somebody who did read the event copy. Not everybody who gets there is going to have read it. So yeah, let's repeat a few things. Give them the stuff they need. They will thank you for it. Oh, and some people confuse details between events. Like, well, I was sure there was going to be a this. Yeah, that was last week's event. This is this week's event. Things change. That's okay. Let's just keep everybody on the straight and narrow. The handout comes from you, the event steward, and therefore then can be enforced by the constable and the crown, right, constable?
Yes.
So if, for instance, you've told everybody that the permanent parking is over here and you should move your cars to it, then the constable can enforce that for you. Yeah, she's nodding. She's nodding. Okay. Also to be included, if you have space, especially if you think there's not enough in your handout, or if you've got a second side that you had to have, but you got a little more room, you could restate some things that people don't sometimes look up for years between, like, oh, the Kingdom Fire rules. If the back of your handout includes the full Kingdom Fire rules, that just gives everybody a review and helps the constables to enforce those again.
Also the anti-bullying and anti-harassment policy.
Yeah, that could be a thing. Again, that came out a little after I wrote this thing, but yes, absolutely. Yeah, excellent idea. And that's a thing. Make sure you got to communicate with people that there are restrictions on the site. And those newcomers that come along, they may not appreciate it right at the moment, but you know, keeping them out of trouble, keeping them from starting to do a thing that then they get told no. If they already knew that it was not a thing, okay, this is even better. Keep them from being embarrassed. Okay, that's pretty much it. Well, that's most of it for site handouts. I'm going to get into maps on site handouts in a moment. Any questions on the Word copy for site handouts? Okay, moving along. Maps on your site handouts. Again, I think this is, personally, I work well with a map, so I think it's probably the most important part of a site handout. And there should be a map. There should be certain things marked out on a map. Most important for you, the constable, and everybody else, if you don't like car camping, or we shouldn't be doing car camping, is marking the parking. So people know where to take their cars. Okay, and I'm going to diverge here. Well, no, I'm not. This is part of my talk. If you don't have any talent at making maps, find somebody who does. We have some wonderful tools these days. Scribble maps online can be a big help. I've used it for communicating archery range locations to autocrats and stuff. It's scribblemaps.com, I'm pretty sure, where you can take a map or a satellite image and mark it up with simple drawing tools and send it to somebody. The other way to make a map of your site, because it's so easy to get an overhead photograph through Google Maps, is get the photograph of your site, get some honest to goodness tracing paper, and trace the necessary parts of the photograph into a map. Because all of a sudden you've got where the roads are, where the fields are, and you can start marking this out. Finna will probably agree with this one, because knowing we were going on to a brand new site last year for Sinago Fall Coronet, somebody volunteered to make her a map of the site. I happen to live 5 minutes from it. I was happy to do it. That was traced from Google Maps overhead view, and then I went to the site, drove out there when it was open, and scribbled in the necessary things that we really needed to know, like the actual location under the trees of the privies, where the water faucets were, where there were pieces of terrain that would not allow camping on them. For instance, a set up archery range that had boxes to open. Obviously there's no camping here. It's not going to work. Where the grass is not. For instance, we were allowed to camp on, well, let's see, in one case we could camp on the grass, but then other places not. So this area is camping, this area is camping, the parking is over here, the RV parking is here, and you get all of that on, and then you give it to the populace so they know what's going on. Finna, did you have a comment?
Not much. I just really loved your map and it was really helpful. So thank you.
Good, glad you liked it. And again, if you don't know how to do this kind of stuff, get somebody to help you. So many sites, and another of my pet peeves, and Wave if this is yours too, wars are especially good at this. People bring their cars, they park once, they get their stuff out, and for some odd reason, they forgot to move it out to the parking area because they had no idea where that parking area was. I could probably name 5 or 6 events in the last couple of years where this has happened. Anybody else? Probably. Yeah. Okay. The other thing about a map is then you don't need to post quite as many signs around the site for where all these things are to get people to go and do the things you want them to do. Oh yeah, one other thing. The map you can use and mark it and tell the sanitation company where you want them to drop the privies. Aha. Okay. Oh yeah, one other thing. Speaking of privies, consider posting copies of your event handout on the inside and outside doors of the privy. Give somebody something to read while they're sitting or waiting. Okay. That's most of site handouts. Are there any questions on that subject? Okay, no problem. We're going to move along to signage on site. I don't know if anybody else has noticed it, but the SCA is one of the most consistently myopic organizations I have ever dealt with. Most people, if they don't already wear glasses, are probably wearing contacts. Please tell me if I'm wrong. Didn't think so. Okay. This being said, you still need to denote things at your site so people know I can go here, I can't go here. And again, the signs have to be readable. One poor substitute autocrat who had to fill in had a whole bunch of signs for site pre-made on cardstock 8.5 by 11 with inch-high lettering. These were the signs for like the parking lot. Nobody could read them as they were passing the parking area because that inch-high lettering just wasn't going to show. Even though the sign was neon, nobody knew it was anything they needed to read. The other option is a ballpoint pen on a dinner plate, unless it's something where somebody's going to be standing right next to it they're not going to be able to read that. So again, consider inch or two, high lettering, boldface. And these are for the signs where you need to mark off the who's got the space on the field, on the edge, whose camp goes where the list pavilion is, where the Herald's pavilion is, where the Royals are, directions to the privies if necessary, anything you wanted to reserve, marking out the archery range so nobody camps on it. Yeah, it's a thing. It's very disappointing when you set up an archery range and the next day you go to start it up and somebody set up a camp about 50 yards down from the line. Doesn't work so good. So make sure those signs are big enough for people to read them. For instance, ballpoint pen disappears about 3 feet back from the paper. So find the heaviest Sharpie markers. Sharpie puts out some wonderful, they look like tin cans, wide tip Sharpie markers. These are the things you're gonna make your on-site signs from. You can make a lot of these ahead of time to save yourself the trouble of making them. You know you're going to need a certain number of signs. Go ahead and have a party, have a social event, get your friends to help you mark these signs up. So you've got them in hand, and all you need is the mallet, the stakes, and the staple gun. Also, please keep in mind that if you printed them on your computer, the inkjet ink will probably run in the dew. However, if you have a laser printer or you actually photocopy your signage, it will not run in the dew. Oh, reserve parking signs come in along this. Reserve parking for the royalty. You still, well, those especially, you got to be able to read those from a car, or you don't know that was your parking. So again, big as you can. Don't make anybody guess. All right. For some of these on-site signs, consider about a half a sheet of poster board. Poster board comes, I think, 2 feet by 30 inches. You can cut it in half. You still get a pretty big sign. Maybe that's what you need for your reserve parking, or at least the, starting Royals parking starts here, and then give the individual names in slightly smaller signs, but please don't make anybody guess. Okay, ballpoint pen disappears. I got that. Making them at home. I got that. We're getting there. I know we're probably way ahead of time. Any question on signage? Okay, no problem.
Not a question, but a comment.
Sure.
Make your lettering and your number as simple as possible. Do not put flourishes and fancy. We know that we love to see the fancy scripts, but not when you're trying to drive past it, or when you're trying to find something in the dark.
Thank you. Wonderful idea. Okay, great. Okay, last section, Herald shouts. Some of the information in your site handout can be repeated by the Herald in their first shout. Don't overdo it, because the Herald's, the shorter it is, the better. We're talking about the nice short announcements of please move your cars if you haven't already. Cover the important stuff in this. The other thing, saving you time in finding the Herald. If you know that on a Saturday morning you're going to need the Herald, the 8 a.m. announcement and the 10 a.m. announcement to say move your cars, I've sent that information to the Green Cloak Herald as early as the Wednesday before the event. Of please put this down in your book. I need announcements for this and this at this time and this time. Then you don't have to find them on Friday night. They know what's going on. Of course, don't overdo it, but definitely, that's the state. Yeah, definitely. Well, nothing wrong with doing this stuff ahead of time. I'm a bit of a planner myself. Okay, we're coming to wrap up. The greater point I want to make here is that if you do all these things, you're going to have a much better time autocrating this event as event steward, because fewer people are going to have to come to you and ask questions. And you're going to have to tell fewer people no or please move. Which we could all use a lot more of that these days. Okay, that is my presentation. Remember, you can get this all again in essay form in the Canale Event Steward Handbook. And if you can't remember that, bug me and I'll send you a copy. Any questions, comments? We're open.
As someone who has driven past the sheep ranch at least once, I suggest if you've got a site like that one where the entrance is not overly obvious, if you can put a sign at least 100 to 200 yards before that and say, hey, watch, you're coming up on the side or something like that. You know, SCA 200 yards. It would be a huge help, especially at night. And remember that your signage coming in and your signage in parking especially are it's critical for them to be clear, high contrast between your text and your background, because people will be coming in at midnight after working a full day. And they need to be able to see that at 45, 55, 65 miles an hour.
Yeah, the other site we lose a lot of people on is Concow, because it's a driveway. There's some landmarks, though. There's a fire station right near there. Or if you get to the fire station, you've gone too far, is not out of line for event copy.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely correct. If you can put a warning sign, SCA 100 yards, and then SCA turn here.
Yeah.
That wonderful idea.
We have that problem with Great Western War, because if you just type in that you're going to the aquatics park, you will not get to the war.
Yeah, it takes you all the way to the wrong entrance.
It does.
Another thing
Almost
I would say is if you have an event that can be accessed from multiple directions and you have people coming from multiple directions, even if it's only one or two people, us Aletians get screwed on directions when we're going to things down south so often, because often the directions are written in a northerly fashion or a easterly fashion, but you're not accounting for the fact that people may be coming from another direction. So if you're going to do that, make sure that you find common points where pretty much everybody is going to be, and anybody that could come couldn't find the major road to hook up to put you in with the rest of those directions, and that it doesn't add 3 hours to their drive.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, there's a thought. Coming into Woodland, there's 3 different highways you can be taking, and you need exit directions for all 3 of them. Because some people, you can be coming down 5, you can be coming up 5, or you may be coming up 113. Because we're at a nexus of a whole bunch of highways. So yeah, it gets interesting.
And your sign should be visible from both directions. Because unless it's a driveway, people could be coming from either way. And there's been places where there were signs that were only readable if you were coming from the west and not readable if you were coming from the east.
That's where the sandwich boards come in nicely, because you can make them double-sided. But yes, excellent idea.
Yeah, sandwich boards are good because you don't have to stake them into the ground, but they're also bad because you don't stake them into the ground and they get blown over by the wind.
Or they walk away.
Or they walk. Duncan's Mills.
Did it last time? I didn't notice.
Yeah, I think one of them did.
That was probably somebody up on Freeze Out Road didn't want anybody there.
Well, that too. Signs will wander off.
Interestingly, I reclaimed one of our signs from a birthday party that it had been stolen for.
thought just occurred to me, after election season, rescue a few of those political signs and use the back of that plastic, that and a couple of 1x2s. You can make a sandwich board real quick and it's cheap.
You do have to use the paint that will stick to plastic though.
Yeah, or tape. You can make letters with tape and it's plenty big if you use good wide duct tape. I think I've been to 1 or 2 events where the sign was a sandwich board that somebody put up or had a scrap of plywood and the lettering was in duct tape. It was effective.
As a note, I put in the chat your handout plus the Canale link, and it is 8 minutes until class changeover.
Oh, I didn't do too bad on timing anyway. All right. All right, well, I guess we're in chat time. Any other comments, any other complaints about sites you've missed, sites you wished you had more information? I'm sure there's more than a few out there.
Oh, yeah. No, you got my big ones. Make your sign, make your lettering on your signs big, high contrast. That's signage 101, really.
Yeah, but how often do we teach it?
Not often enough.
I guess the other thing that you could say is make sure, we've kind of covered it, but make sure it's visible at night. They used to put a sign up at Rancho Seco. Now that turn is lighted, but it used not to be, and they put the sign up. And I have twice, after I had camped there before, I have twice driven past that at night and missed the turn.
I have too. I have to admit, yeah, I've driven past that place once or twice because it's on the inside of a curve and you don't catch it in your headlights.
Yeah.
I was told, and this was from Master Sankyu, which tells you how long ago this was, but somebody had made up a sign that had sort of a built-in pocket behind a cutout into which they put a couple of candles that lit, I think it was an outline of a crown that could be seen in the night as you were approaching because there was an active light up there. Candles doesn't sound like a good idea these days, but certainly LED lights will burn all night. A couple of glow sticks in something where it's actually then showing out in profile that in letters that you're going to, or a picture that you're going to recognize coming along the road. Oh, this must be my turn.
Yeah. Well, the glow bracelets could actually be formed into letters.
Bit thin, but yes.
Yeah. Or heck,
Yeah.
you take the glow stick, mix it up so it glows, and then you break it open and paint.
Yeah, but it doesn't last as long.
They don't know.
But there are, I mean, LED strips could be a thing, but again, you got to be careful. You got to get that one in before morning because it may walk off. There's a lot of possibilities, and I'd like to see what kind of creativity comes out of this. Could be fun, but please, yeah, don't lose your populace on the way. It's bad form.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for a wonderful class. I'm going to stop recording now.
Oh, yes.